Hello and welcome to Track versus Track, where we talk rock and roll music. And in honor of the new miniseries Pistol on Hulu, or FX on Hulu, or whatever it's called, I decided to propose, Matt doesn't know anything about any of this. I decided to propose Never Mind The Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. Matt, I imagine this isn't your typical bailiwick. You like music that's very elaborate and has organ and two drummers. You're not much of a punk guy, are you?
Well, I'm not typically. However, being a music consumer, a music collector, you have to represent all of the different genres and styles of music. And I don't know, about 10 years ago, I saw like a real deficiency in my music library. And so I actually went out and bought, I started on like Google typing in like essential punk albums, bought them all. And some of the discographies of some of the groups, have quite a few like really important albums. Let's talk about the Clash for a second, so I bought all the Clash albums. And then obviously the Sex Pistols only have the one, but John Lydon has Pill, so you got
Public Image, yeah.
all the Public Image albums, and there's even more, but you got to stop someplace.
You have to stop. You have a lot more than I do, that's for sure.
But yeah, so I actually do have quite a few punk albums. Do I pull them out and listen to them regularly? No. And one of the reasons why is because when I can consume music, generally there has to be a compromise with my wife. And to her, this is like the bane of her existence. I can't play punk. I can't play metal. There's a lot of genres that are strictly off bounds. So I have to consume them, if I'm exercising with headphones or what have you. But this particular album, and I'll get right into this one, was the very first punk album I ever bought. And I believe I got, and this is not my original copy, but I believe my very first Never Mind The Bollocks came from BMG or Columbia House.
Okay.
And I remember putting the little, they used to send you those sheets that had the little stamps on it, and you'd fill out your 10 albums, for a penny, of course. And then they'd send you a bill for $1,000 in shipping and handling. But I did pick up the Sex Pistols album because I was aware of it. Arguably the most famous punk album of all time. So I've had this album for quite a while.
And this is an album that ends up on like greatest albums of all time, not just punk. I think it's on the last Rolling Stones 100 greatest rock and roll records and stuff like that. Whether it deserves to be, that's something we can discuss. I did mention the new miniseries. Old habits die hard. Matt, I don't know if you knew, I used to host a film podcast. So I just wanted to stress, just because I chose to do this record because of that, just because I chose to do this record because of the new miniseries, I don't know if I recommend the miniseries. I like Danny Boyle, but I don't typically like music biopics, and this is filled with that. A lot of cheesy, like this is how, Sid and Nancy, now that's a good one. I'm a big fan of, that's the Alex Cox film. Now I'm going to forget his name. Frick. Gosh, I wrote a freaking paper about him in grad school. Why can't I remember his name?
The actor or the director? Or?
The director of the two films. Fudge. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to edit that out. Because I really should know his name. Oh, because
Well, this is the recently released Criterion version of this movie. I had it on DVD, but this came out like 2018 or so. I actually haven't watched any of the special features, but
I'm a big fan of Julian Temple's. Well, I'm a big fan of The Filth and the Fury. That's the documentary that kind of got me into the Sex Pistols. And it is kind of the sequel to The Great Rock and Roll Swindle, which it sometimes gets called another Sex Pistols album. It's a soundtrack for that movie. That movie is weird, and it's all Malcolm McLaren talking about how he formed the Sex Pistols and ripped off all these labels, and it's kind of garbage. It does have that memorable My Way performance by Sid Vicious. We'll get to Sid Vicious. But a lot of what is covered in Pistol is covered probably better in Sid and Nancy. It's from Steve Jones's POV. The icky thing, why I can't recommend it, is because they've made Chrissie Hynde the second lead character of the show. And I like Chrissie Hynde. I have a lot of respect for Chrissie Hynde. In fact, I almost want to do, after picking this halfway through that series, I'm like, we should do a Pretenders album to make up for it. Because she is done dirty in the show, not because she's like the second lead, and according to Steve Jones, even like she didn't know how much she was in it. They make her his romantic interest throughout, and they apparently had barely a relationship at all, and there's some graphic sex stuff. It's icky. It's an icky handling of her, so that's why I cannot recommend it. And I actually go back and forth on recommending Never Mind The Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, because I've been a punk fan for many years, and the Sex Pistols are both the most overrated band and the most underrated band, depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to punk people, a lot of them are very dismissive of the Sex Pistols because of how influential they have been and how famous they are and how they're the punk band everyone knows. They know classic punk band. They know the Clash. They know the Sex Pistols. They know the Ramones. Maybe the Jam if you're getting more and more obscure.
Damned.
The Damned. But this is usually people will know this name and they'll associate it with punk, and they get a lot of credit for being the first punk band. But punks will tell you, of course, not, because there's the Stooges and there's the Damned. You mentioned that, and like dozens of other bands. They just kind of popularized it, and more importantly than the music, they popularized the style. This album, and of course, yeah, okay, they sucked live. Sid Vicious couldn't play. If anyone tells you Sid Vicious is cool, they don't know what they're talking about. That was just because he could snarl. He looked kind of cool. But and I used to be a lot harsher on Sid Vicious than I am. Now I feel a little bit of pity, but he's still not cool. Still not cool. He's just young and poor and a victim of circumstance. But still couldn't play, and not on this album. Barely on this album. I'll address that when you get to the track, if you've been that one. I have a question for you, Matt. Is this the most influential one album band ever? Can you know music history a little bit more than me? I'm tempted to say it is.
Yeah. If you were to ask me that and we weren't reviewing this, that probably would be the album that popped into my head.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of other bands, like they'll have one influential album and then maybe a couple years down the line, they'll have a reunion album that, nothing, totally forgotten. The Sex Pistols never reunited. Well, no, they did reunite. There's a concert film also done by Julian Temple, but they never produced another album with their original bassist even. So this is it. I have an American pressing. You have the American colored CD. You have a repressing with the UK colors. We are both reviewing the 12-track version of the album. Usually we look on the back to determine the tracks, but it's all kind of cut and pasted because apparently they had a hard time deciding the album order. So to actually get to the album track, I have to get it out and read. All right. And track one, and the other thing I think we need to address, that this is probably going to be a short, I don't know how much I'm going to have to say about most of these. Yours is pink. Mine is green. It's like they just kind of inverted the colors.
Do you have, does it say Submission on your back as a track?
It does. It has it with a hyphen here. Yeah. Right under 17. Yours does not.
Mine does not. So
and it has E.M.I. Unlimited Supply. Mine just says E.M.I.
This doesn't have Submission on it at all. We talked about that right before we started about if we were going to.
But you're reviewing the version with Submission. As I was talking to you a little bit before air, Matt, there's not a lot of variety. A lot of the albums we review have a ton of variety, lots of different things to compare and contrast. These are all, I would say, the entire album is solid pogoers. They're all songs you know how you would exactly dance to. You would jump up and down and you would push people around. They all have pretty similar tempos. The only variations really are whatever guitar riffs Steve Jones decided to lift from contemporary bands, and Johnny Rotten. Johnny Rotten, of course, another divisive character, especially John Lydon now, has become everything the Pistols stood against. But as a vocalist on this album, I think he's the best thing about the Sex Pistols. I think that's what makes the album good. And then, regardless of whether they weren't good live, I think it's a good album. I think it's a good album through and through. I had a hard time coming up with my list. I'd say my 1 through 7 could get completely mixed around. And then there's a few on the bottom that I know are definitively on the bottom. And I'm really nervous I'm going to drop this. So I'm going to just get started here with Holidays in the Sun. This is what I think is the best guitar riff of them all. Borrowed maybe from, it's been accused by the Jam for taking it off of In the City. But whether or not you know that or not, it's pretty good. It's a great way to start the album. It's the one where Johnny Rotten goes, that Berlin, wow. I'm not going to try it. It'll again devolve into the B-52s. Do you have it? This is my number 4. Where is it for you?
Wow. Yeah, I love the song. I have this in my top 3. Okay. So we'll disclose that at the end. But, those opening stomps, I would assume a crowd of many people. And then the guitars just kick in. The instruments blend really well on this one. Definitely one of my favorite ones, a good old punk song about the Berlin Wall. Apparently the story behind this is that John Lydon was going to someplace in England, like on a train or a drive through the countryside or whatever. He ended up in Berlin. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I read. By the way, this album had 4 singles, and this was I believe, the 4th single off the album. So yeah,
and all those singles except for one have B-sides that aren't on the album. There's a copy or a cover of a Stooge song, No Fun, and I can't remember the other ones. I don't know if I've heard the other ones, honestly. There is a new compilation out, not the one, that's The Professional, that's Steve Jones's other band, that we got into the record shop that it isn't the album in order, but it's essentially the entire Bollocks album, a couple tracks from Great Rock and Roll Swindle, and a couple B-sides. So if I didn't already own this, and I feel pretty good about just owning this, I don't need to own any of those cruddy live recordings, or there was a Sid Sings one that came out a little while ago. Don't feel any need to have that.
Yeah.
All right. The next song is maybe one of the angrier ones on there. It's called Bodies. It has a very serious subject matter. And not to bring it always back to the Pistol miniseries, but the situation is the whole, like, the subject of like the 3rd episode, and it's pretty stomach churning. This is the one track that Sid Vicious played on, even though they had to overdub his bass part anyway. It is also the only one with F-bombs, I believe. And that's the part, if any part I like about it, I like when he goes F this and F that, F and F and F and F and F and F and F. And that's why the album gets an E explicit. It's like the only one streaming that has like the explicit E on it, despite the album's reputation, which I thought was funny, at least on YouTube Music, where I streamed it a lot. I have it pretty far near the bottom. It's number 8. I don't care for the subject matter. People can Google that on their own if they want to hear about it, but it is a true story about a woman who followed the band and her sad situation, but it's also pretty stomach churning, like I said. Where is it ranked for you, Matt?
Smack dab in the middle, number 6. She was a bloody disgrace. He just sounds so British. And, the part in the middle where he's F this and F that. I have a short little anecdote about this song. So when you picked this album 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'd forgotten about this song. So I started it from the top, and I'm outside with my wife, and we have a bonfire, and there's like neighborhood kids playing in the adjacent backyards and stuff like that. It's like 7 o'clock, 7:30. It's, little kids are out playing, and I had the song cranked because I just love Holidays in the Sun, so I just had it cranked up, and this song comes in. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good one. I forgot about that middle section, and boom. You could have heard, like, we were outside and I was playing through a Bluetooth speaker, but you could have heard the needle go, and all the kids are looking at me, and Lauren's like, turn that off. I'm like, I'm trying. I dropped my phone, and
oh, yeah. No, I'm in trouble. I'm the one in trouble. I made you play that outside. Sorry, neighbor kids. That's all my doing.
They're not going to watch this video anyway, but I think it's a great song. It's in the middle for me, though.
All right. Number 3 is No Feelings. And this is what I like. I like it, the vocals. It's still kind of low on my list. I think I have it below Bodies, actually. It's number 9 for me. Wow, that's pretty low. Um, it's kind of another song that just kind of captures the punk ethos of I don't care, I have no feelings for anybody else except for myself. A lot of the punk attitude, and I like punk music. I don't consider myself a punk. I like order, not too far to the. I'm not a conservative, but I think we need laws. Anarchy is not the solution, but the selfishness, that kind of snotty young attitude, I do appreciate in this song. Any feelings? Where are your feelings on No Feelings, Matt?
We're pretty close. I have it a little higher than you. I have it at number 8. You know, Johnny Rotten was 21 years old when this was recorded. Yeah, and you can just really hear just in his voice. I think he's, you know, whether he's a studio puppet, like some people have said, this whole band being a studio puppet,
Yeah.
or if he's truly like believing what he's saying. I mean, I think his vocals are awesome, though. I think this song in particular, I think this song and song number 4, you know, which are deeper cuts, even though they're early on the album. I think his vocal is just fantastic. I really do think, I'm glad you brought that up earlier. I really do think he is an underrated punk vocalist. People don't usually think of punk and great vocalists, but I think, I mean, he is exactly what you want in a punk vocalist. I like this song. It's number 8 because, I mean, apparently I like this album quite a bit, but that's where
Yeah,
it
that's
goes.
what I'm looking at my numbers and I'm like, what? I have that there? Yeah, punk has evolved into something now where most of the very popular stuff, the people are really good singers. Like it's turned into like what I would have called screamo in the early 2000s. That's what punk is associated with. That or I don't know what you would call Machine Gun Kelly. I think about Machine Gun Kelly a lot because I'm trying to figure out his thing. I don't know if I'm talking too young for you. He's a guy who kind of looks like Sid Vicious, but is better looking, has better skin. Malcolm McLaren gets a lot of credit for basically being the master, the puppet master. That's what Rock and Roll Swindle is about. And song number 4, Liar, is a lot of people have credited to being about Malcolm McLaren because Johnny Rotten would say, we kind of knew he was lying to us all the time, and that was charming. It is actually a pretty stupid song, but I like how Lydon sings it. It is my number. Oh, I have it low. 10. I guess I do. What is that? I don't know why it's my number 10. You're in suspense. No, I'm not going to do it. I like how he sings the chorus. It's good. The rest of it's pretty forgettable though, other than Rotten.
We're very close again. I have it at number 9. Yeah, la, la, yeah, la, 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 la. I love the rhythm thing in that refrain.
Yeah.
It's a good song, just doesn't hold up to me as some of the other songs. But I think, like I said, No Feelings in this one. I could have flipped a coin on him. I think Johnny Rotten's got great vocals, great inflection, great personality. But it's just maybe just a smidge lower than No Feelings. So I have it at number 9. I'm an idiot.
Okay, so we noticed something on the vinyl and on streaming. Problems is track 5, and God Save the Queen is track 6. But on the CD, those two are flipped. But we're going to go with Problems next. And this is one I really like. I think this is the one that's most fun to sing along to. I just like the cadence. I'm not going to try it again. But I also like how he says, it ends with problems, and it almost turns into sounding like Roblo, Roblo, Roblo. And I've already joked about singing along with this as in my B-52's voice, but this is the one I do. It's a problem for everybody else. There's no problem except for myself. You're a problem.
Yes.
Problem? Oh no, I'm gonna cut that out. Or no, I'm getting fingerprints all over this thing. Okay, I'll keep that in. I think it's in my top 3 because I just like the Roblo, Roblo, Roblo. But again, that's just a fun vocal. It's showing how low he can go for being, off key or whatever else he is.
I like it too. I don't have it as high as you. I have it at number 7. And man, it's a solid song. I love the melodic build up. Problems, problems, problems. But this song to me, it gets a little bit on the whiny side. And I know that's 21-year-old punkers, but like, I'm a teenager, I'm getting close to adulthood, and I've got problems like how to deal with having a job and studying and so on. And that's just punk in a nutshell. But it's a cool song. I like the themes it addresses. Obviously, it's a middle of the road song for me. It's a good song. I like it. I like it just as much as I like the last two. Like I could flip these around, but that's where I have it right now, number 7.
All right, we mentioned it already. Track 5 is God Save the Queen, their signature album. They're probably their most British because it's about the monarchy. No Future is what John Lydon wanted to call it, and that's the hook when he just sings No Future for You. It's got a good guitar riff at the very beginning, too. You all know it. Everyone knows this song. Maybe it's just because of how ubiquitous it was. I didn't want to put it in my top 3. So it's 5 for me.
Yeah. Similar logic for where I put it too. I have it a little bit higher than you. I put it at number 4 because it's the song, besides another one that we're going to talk about in a second. I've heard it 1,000 times. I think it's got a little bit better melody than the one we're going to talk about though. When I first started teaching middle school music, which I no longer do, there was in the curriculum like a thing about 20th century popular music, and you went through the genres. And I actually didn't come up with the curriculum. It was pretty much paint by numbers, and it got to punk, and it brought up the Sex Pistols, and they wanted me to play Anarchy in the UK. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I feel comfortable playing that to a group of middle school students. So I ended up swapping it out with God Save the Queen. So you can't, I can't tell you how many times I played this song. But it was just, I felt
Did the kids like it?
The kids liked it. Yeah, the kids did like it.
Did they pogo in the classroom?
They did.
Start piercing themselves.
They took their pens and pencils and they were banging them to the rhythm of the song, But yeah, it's a classic punk anthem. I mean, what else can you say about it? Number 4 for me.
Going to side 2. What I think is their true anthem is 17, with the hook being them chanting, I am a lazy sod, I'm a lazy sod. I think this would be the most fun to sing along to. I think, well, no, not like in the car like I was just talking about doing to Problems. But if I were to go back in time to 1977 and be in a ruck and be spitting on the band and getting hepatitis from spitting on everybody else, this is the one I imagine doing it to. And for that, it's in my top 3.
Wow. See, there's 2 songs that I look at the title and I'm trying to think about how does that song go. Obviously, they all sound kind of similar.
I'm a lazy sod.
Yep.
I'm a lazy sod.
I think this song doesn't kick off with the bang like some of the other ones do. It's a little bit more subdued instrumentally. I mean, you're not dealing with great instrumentals in any of these songs, but I guess I don't put this one as high as you, not even close. I mean, it's just kind of forgettable. And, we just talked about this theme in the song Problems. So it's like, okay, adolescence, you're 17, you're almost 18, you're almost an adult. I get it. I have this at dead last. I got this at 12.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
We've been pretty
the other
close
track you
at
were
this point.
another track you were referring to earlier, I'm assuming, was Anarchy in the UK.
Yeah.
Again, a classic song. Don't know if there's much to say about it. I keep talking about, it's almost like I'm ranking them on how angry they are. This one is very angry. I'm personally now at the point where I'm not impressed by anarchy as a subject. And again, I'm probably sick of hearing it. So I have it at number 7. I've never liked the I am an antichrist bit. Yeah. Not because I'm a prude, but how can there be one? There's one antichrist because there's one Christ, right? Unless you're getting into the 3-in-1, whatever. There's a joke in the miniseries about how Glenn Matlock, the bassist, doesn't like the song because those two don't rhyme. But really, I just don't like it because I am an antichrist. You're the Antichrist. That's how that works.
Right.
I've seen The Omen.
Yeah.
There's more than one Omen, but there's only one Antichrist. Okay.
Damien.
Yeah. Well, Damien, and then 4, it's some little girl or something like that. But
Oh,
she's
that's
not.
true.
But it's not real. It's not. Spoiler alert for Omen 4, The Next Generation, or whatever it's called.
That was like a made-for-TV movie. That doesn't count.
It doesn't count. It doesn't count. All right. Where's Anarchy in the UK for you? Top 3?
No, it's not. And same logic as you, just the burnout factor on it. I actually have it a little bit below God Save the Queen. I have this falling in at number 5. And you just stated why I didn't feel comfortable playing this for a group of middle school students, because the opening line is, I am an antichrist. You know, it's like, well, I might get some emails about that if some kid goes home and tells their parents that not only did he play a song by a band called the Sex Pistols, but then he's playing a song about devil worship. So it's like, all right, I'm not even going to go there. Yeah. So God Save the Queen, good and wholesome. Yeah, this song is super catchy. My actual first experience with this song, I think this is the first song I ever heard off the album, was off of Megadeth's album. It's their like 3rd album, and I forget what it's called, but everyone in their band covers this song. But that Megadeth cover was the first one I ever heard, and I had that on cassette tape. So this song, you know, I go back 30 plus years with this song. Gets stuck in your head for sure. And I
Green
love
Jelly's Anarchy in Bedrock is probably the first time I've heard it. I don't know if you're familiar with Green Jelly, where the lyric is changed to I want to be Fred Flintstone, which doesn't make any sense. It still starts with I am an Antichrist.
Is that the band that did the Little Pig, Let Me In?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I know.
Destroy Barney Rubble. It's not very clever cover. It doesn't do the yabba dabba do. You know, it's not up to Weird Al covering Under the Bridge as about the Flintstones. But I liked the Flintstones as a young, angry boy. So what are you going to do?
Me too.
All right. Completely segueing seamlessly into Submission. And again, we talked about how much we were going to get into the subject matter about each song. And Malcolm McLaren owned a fashion shop that was called Sex, and they were named the Sex Pistols after that. And they were very much into bondage, and so Malcolm McLaren asked them to write a song about submission, and then they write this cheesy, lame song about making love underwater, and there are dolphin sounds at it. Like, if you know the backstory, it's kind of funny, but if you just listen to the song, it's lame. It includes the lyrics, can't figure out your watery love, which sounds like a B-52's lyric. This is probably the most B-52s that have been referenced in a Sex Pistols discussion. It's near the bottom. It's my number 11.
Yeah, we're very different on this. Did you know this song almost sounds exact? So there's 2 things to this song that I wanted to discuss. The first thing is that opening riff. It sounds like All Day and All the Night by the Kinks.
I'm sure it's taken from All Day and All the Night, if the timeline works out.
And we know that the Kinks inspired, you know, punk music, really, and inspired metal music. The Kinks are so influential. That's a discussion for another day. But this song, you know, you brought up dolphin noises. I guess I never heard it like that. But it also like inspired, to me, this song sounds like the catalyst for new wave. It's got kind of a techno-y, synthesized type of sound. And the reason why I like this song so much is because it is the most different song on the album. All of these other songs, you know, replace the title and throw in a couple lyrics, and yeah, it's the next song, really. This is the most nuanced. It's the most kink-like, and yeah, the subject matters. I did have to look up that too, about the S&M shop and stuff like that. You know what, though? I don't really care about any of these lyrics. They don't really mean anything to me. I don't grow up in a impoverished, you know, place in England. So I have it in my top 3.
Oh, that's fair. You know, you're kind of turning me around on it. I think I just dismissed it because of like it being a kind of a goofy love song in an album but maybe that's why it stands out. It's a goofy love song and a very angry record.
So basically, when the vinyl was released with 11 songs, it came with the 7-inch single. And that 7-inch single was Submission, but it wasn't a charting single. It just came with, I think they probably had already pressed the album and had that just as, you know, extra studio takes that they really liked. So they included that. Huh. Now a lot of the vinyl has just, you know, embedded that within the tracks. But
interesting that it's not like at the like on the tail end of the album or something. That's what I would expect. Mm-hmm. The next track I've lost count of what number it is. It is number 4. No, 4 on side 2. So that is
Number
Let me
10.
do some math. 10. 10. Pretty Vacant. This has the longest instrumental open I think they have. It has a nice build to it. Let me hear a little bit of it. Nope, that's submission. I don't think I can get away with playing this without us getting. I don't know what the copyright rules are. We are commenting on it.
10 seconds, I think.
Okay, well, I might cut that out, but it's kind of like a slow build. I think it has another great chant. I'm so pretty, you're so pretty. I imagine it killing in a crowd if they were good at playing it live, because they weren't pretty and they were actually, well, at least Johnny was kind of smart. So it's kind of ironic. And he sings Vacant in such a kind of a profane way, but it's also a fun way to just, you could read it as that profane, or you could just read it as like punching, like the part of the word you don't expect him to punch. And it's in my top 3. I enjoy Pretty Vacant.
Top 3 for me as well. So
Okay.
this is one of the 4 singles. You know, I have obviously 2 out of the 4 in my top 3, and not the 2 most famous. You know, I don't have God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK, but I had, of course, Holidays in the Sun as a top 3, and this one. Which one do I like better? I guess you'll have to wait until the end. But yeah, it starts off with that short guitar lick and then some drums and vocals, and it turns into punk goodness. I really like this song. Yeah, you know, the way he pronounces the title, you know, which is purposeful, but it's pretty funny, and it's catchy, and it's pretty much everything I want in a punk song. Love Pretty Vacant. Top 3 for me.
The penultimate track is track number 11. And this one I feel does fit into the Matthew, I don't know if you created the rule. I call it the Jensen rule. But it is the second to last track of an album is typically the worst. It is my number 12. It's called New York. And there's really not much memorable about it. It's probably about the New York Dolls, a band Malcolm McLaren also managed. But there's no real reason for them to be upset with the New York Dolls, from what I can tell. And it's a kind of a mean, pointed song towards them. And he sings a little, I mean, he goes deep again. He does a little bit of a bassy thing with his voice. But other than that, there's nothing I can recall about New York that makes it notable. So, and other songs that, you know, at least have something that sticks with me, I have it at number 12.
Yeah, see, this is similar to 17. I can't pull the melody out. I can't pull like the iambic pentameter, the rhythm scheme of the lyrics. I can't. The only thing I can tell you that's memorable about this song is there's a second verse that uses some very homophobic lines, very homophobic lyrics, and that really kind of turns me off. This song has not aged well. However, I don't necessarily find it musically as boring as a couple songs, so I have it at 10. But the last 3 songs are my 10, 11, and 12. I could swap them around. This is certainly not a perfect album, and there's 3 that are pretty tied for the bottom. I just put this one at number 10, but it could be number 12. Yeah.
I think it ends the final track, however, Rebounds. It's a very specific track that only the Pistols would record, a song bashing E.M.I, the record label that dumped them after some initial bad press. It might have even been because of God Save the Queen. I'm kind of, even though I just watched 6 hours of a biopic on them, I can't remember the exact details because they were dropped by a couple different bands or a couple different labels for a couple different reasons. I like the song. I like how Johnny sings E.M.I, and I have it ranked. What is left? Number 6. Wow. So that's in my higher range of the albums, but not one of my absolute favorites. But like I said, my 1 through 7 are pretty borderline. I like these for what they are.
You have E.M.I that high, huh? I have it at number 11.
Oh, wow.
It's just like too specific. Yeah, you're pissed off at your former record label.
And so my top 3, that gets us to that, and this could probably go in any order, really. My number three, I had 17. Clearly the biggest division, maybe to date, of our show between you and I. Number 2, I had Problems. And number 1, I had Pretty Vacant.
Awesome.
Which I will not sing like Johnny Rotten. What are your top 3?
All right. Drum roll.
All right.
My number 3 is Pretty Vacant. My number 2, Holidays in the Sun. And here's my dark horse, because it sounds like the Kinks, and the Kinks are a top 3 favorite band for me. I've got Submission as number 1.
And that's the one I had pretty far near the bottom. So yeah, lots of variants in ours. I liked Holiday in the Sun, though. I almost wish I had that instead of 17. I think it was probably, could have flipped a coin, and then it would have been a completely different list. I'm going to put this back here.
Clicker wheel time, right?
Clicker wheel times.
This is sponsored by Little Caesars tonight.
Yeah, Little Caesars this time. Okay, so this is this is one we haven't gotten before. I look up there's a book, 1001 Albums to Hear Before You Die. I'll have the author's name here in a second. We use a random number generator to determine a number, and then we'll find out if Matt owns it. Pretty low number. Okay, Matt, I'm not going to tell you anything yet. So I used a random number generator with 0 or 1 to 1001, and Robert Dimery's book, 1001 Albums to Hear Before You Die. And the number that came up was 55. And we're going to determine if you own it or not. That's pretty early on.
Yeah. Is this even
you
in
definitely
the 60s?
own it.
Is it in the 60s?
It's Beach Boys Today with an exclamation point. Yeah.
Be right back.
It's like,
So
I was like, oh, that's a pretty early number. It's going to be some 40s or
I'll just grab
30.
Here,
It's going to be some.
Dig through all the vinyl, but I have my CDs pretty well organized. So, 1 second.
Thought it was going to be some obscure jazz record.
I don't have some of the 80s stuff, I guess.
There it is, the Beach Boys Today. What's on that?
Oh, this is an awesome album. And actually, Capitol did these, there's a glare there, did these where they're all twofers, actually, about 15 years ago. So you actually get Summer Days and Summer Nights all on one disc, too. So you get both albums on this. But Beach Boys Today is one of my favorite early ones. It's got Do You Wanna Dance? It's got When I Grow Up to Be a Man. It's got Help Me Rhonda. Well, since you put me down. It's got Dance, Dance, Dance. Those are probably the highlights.
Sure. Well, we'll do a Beach Boys album at some point. It's not one I had heard of, but I figured you would have it. Better album than Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols.
So if I had to cast one to the sea that it would never exist over this one, I mean,
there are probably multiple Beach Boys albums on that list, but
When I Grew Up to Be a Man,
there's only one Sex Pistols song album. You'll be completely erasing them from history.
Help Me Rhonda and When I Grew Up to Be a Man, I prefer those two songs over anything on that album. So I guess yes, I would.
The whole punk scene is gone. You've demolished it. Thanks for indulging me. I knew this would be a harder one to talk about just because of how monotonous isn't the right word, but how punky it is. Let's just go with that. We'll come back with something a little more your speed, I'm sure. Public Image? No, that's going to be a while. Let's wait a while before that. Like, rate, subscribe. We'll see you next episode.